we good now? Steve? Thank you, Richard. I've heard I haven't been here that long in St. Paul's, but I've heard all these stories about Richard and his beautiful music, and I think we greatly appreciate it. We also rang that bell. That was for your mom. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and I am life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, yet shall they live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. I am the Alphas and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I hold the keys to hell and death. Because I live, you shall live. Amen. We're going to have a hymn. It's hymn 707 in the UMC hymn. Hymn of praise. Something alone God can only see. Friends and family, we have gathered here to praise God and to witness to our faith as we celebrate the life of Joann Roebuck. We come in our grief and in community with each other to acknowledge our human loss. May we all find God's grace to comfort us in our pain and in our sorrow. May we find hope in the resurrection of Jesus. We are in community today, yet we all grieve differently. Today we will share joy, tears, love for one another. All emotions are welcome and encouraged. Joann would want you to share her life as though she was here to share those same tears and especially those joys. Please join me as you will in our Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, restores my life, leads me in right paths for the sake of the Lord's name. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint me with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live. Amen. And
It's okay. Let's try that one. Oh, I don't need it. I'm going to say something about the Lord's Prayer. That was my mom's favorite verse. Point down. There you go.
Is it on?
Yes, it's on if I get really, 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 really close. When she was about 8 years old, she had a flannel nightgown on, and she was in her bedroom, standing in front of the fireplace. And my uncle was, her uncle, Bob, was in the bathroom, and the fire from the fireplace came up under her nightgown and burned her. She's about 7 or 8. And she spent about 3 months in the hospital. And the Lord's Prayer was something that she learned. And that she kind of leaned on when she was in the hospital. Can you imagine that at 8 years old? Kind of shaped who she was, too. Go ahead. Sweet Jesus, my Savior, you are my faithful friend. You made me, and you know me, and you see my every sin. And my soul is amazed by the gift of your grace as these arms take me in. Sweet Jesus, my Savior, you are my faithful friend. Sweet Jesus, my shelter, you are my faithful friend. The refuge that I run to when my world comes closing in. Why should I be afraid when I know I am saved by the arms that take me in? Sweet Jesus, my shelter, you are my faithful friend. Sweet Jesus, my shepherd, you are my faithful friend. You hold me and you lead me, and I'll follow till the end. And what's more I will say on that beautiful day when your arms take me in. Sweet Jesus, my shepherd, you are my faithful friend. Sweet Jesus, my Savior, you are my faithful friend. Well, that one.
thank you, Richard and Penny. It's a time of reflections. And I have a couple of words for myself, family, and I would like to open up to all of you any reflections or stories or feelings. And how this works is if I think it's going on too long and I step towards you with the microphone, that's usually a clue. So just so you know. A few months ago, I had the opportunity to meet Joann. As I said, I haven't been here very long. And we went down to Penny's house and enjoyed some time together with Joann. And I was invited into her room where she was laying there. And this beautiful woman looked up at me, and this gorgeous smile like this. And I have to preface this with, we walked into situations like this, we're nervous, I want to say the right things, I want to do the right things, etc. And of course, it's a small space, it's a bedroom. And I walk in, and she her hand reaches up to me and grabs my hand and pulls me in close to her. And she had a grip. And if she wanted to arm wrestle, I wasn't going to come out on top, I can just tell you that. And it actually surprised me. But she pulled me in and leaned me in close to her so I could hear her. And she said, "Are you married?" And I said, "Is that an offer?" And immediately, I was set at ease. And that's what we do for each other in life. We set each other at ease, and life is much better. It goes smoothly. And we are grateful for people like Joann who set us at ease in our lives. And so my experience there that one day went on, and we read some scripture and read a little from the Bible and prayed a little bit. But that was a short period of time. And then I had the opportunity to sit with these three sisters, with their mother there. And I got to hear all the stories. And each one of them did this for an hour. It was your fault. No, it was your fault. It was your fault. Like this. Okay? And it was joy for a family to do that and to be there together. And I am eternally grateful for that day, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. Steve, do we have that other mic?
Judy's gonna get up first. Oh, you sure?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Hiding under my. Glad that didn't bite. There you go.
Want me to do it now?
If you like, yeah. You're gonna use the mic. You can use it.
Oh, okay.
Either one.
So first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank Richard for graciously accepting to play today, and for Jan Parnell, who lovingly agreed to be your hostess today, and for Miriam White for helping her. So I have 3 funny stories to tell about Mom. The first one, hi Mike. The folks owned a place at Pine Flat Dam. It was 26 miles out of Fresno, and they used to go fishing. But Mary Jo and I would go take a vacation up there and just use it as a home base. And so Mom came with us one time. And so we would go to Sequoia National Park because it's like 20 degrees cooler, because it's like in August and it's like 104 degrees. So we'd have what we call our Yule Gibbons lunch, which was cheese, crackers, grapes, something to drink. And I don't know whether Yule Gibbons ate Twinkies, but we probably had a Twinkie. And so we would walk the trails and just take in the presence of the forest. And then one day a week, we went to the movies. It was at a small town nearby, and it was just one theater. And so it was one of the Star Wars movies. And we thought, oh, Lord, she's not going to understand this. So we went in, and it was cooler in there than outside. And so Jabba the Hutt comes on the screen. And as loud as she could, she says, "Oh my God, what is that ugly worm?" Mary Jo and I just sank down in our seats. I go, "Mom, you got to be quiet." "But it's so ugly." "I know, but you got to be quiet." And we get in the car later on, and she goes, "Why did you take me to see that movie?" I go, "Mom, it's the only thing that was on. It was cool being inside, right?" "Yeah." Okay, our second story is Dad built Mom a spa in the backyard to help her with her arthritis. And she says, "It's like sitting in a big bathtub." I go, "Yeah, but your bathtub's not heated, have jets or bubbles, does it?" "No." So one summer evening, Mary Jo and I had fixed dinner for the folks and went to go see what's on TV. And she doesn't usually have, Dad didn't usually get to have the remote control because we don't know what he would find, but he found Force 10 to Navarone. He has seen that movie so many times, but he says, "I didn't see that movie." So we said, "We're not watching that again. You can watch it by yourself. We're going to go out in the spa." So we went and got a bathing suit on, went out in the spa. And we were out there having fun, laughing and fooling around. And I go, "You have colored light covers. I didn't know that. So let's try this." So I tried the blue. It was really relaxing. The green was nice. Yellow, forget that because it looked like pee. And then there was red. And she goes, "That's devil water. I'm not sitting in no devil water. Get that out. I'm going to get out if you don't get that devil water." And Mary Jo and I just started busting laughing because I didn't think about it, but the steam's coming up and it's bubbling. "I'm not sitting in no devil water." I go, "Okay, Mom, okay, let's vote. Do we want the blue or do we want the green? Or do we want devil water?" "No devil water. I'm not want no devil water." So we were out there for 2 hours, and then we come back inside, and Dad goes, "You missed a really good movie." And we were sore for 3 days afterwards because it's 2 hours in the spa is too long. So the next story is we were watching, it was in the 1980s, and we were watching the World Series this Saturday. And it was the Dodgers between the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. And the home plate umpire got beamed in the head with a ball, knocked him out cold, pretty scary. And so the announcer says, "Well, folks, there's going to be a break in the game because we have to call up for a new umpire." Just then the phone rang. Mary Jo answers the phone. "Hello? Yes, yes. Oh, yes, okay. Just a minute. Dad, it's for you. They want you to umpire. They send a limo for you, and you're taking the Concorde." Mom was crocheting. She stopped crocheting. Her mouth fell open. Mary Jo sat back down on the couch and covered her face because she was laughing. Dad just sat there and laughed. He just sat there, and Mom goes, "Jack, get up and answer the phone. Jack, get up the phone." He gets up to answer the phone, and she turns to me and says, "Why do you suppose they called your dad?" I go, "Well, he did used to umpire from when Mort was playing, and they probably kept him in the database." "Yeah, you're probably right." So Dad answers the phone. Yep, okay. And he sits back down. She goes, "Well, Jack." She goes, "It was Ed Watson." And Ed Watson used to build the fireplaces in Redondo Beach. He's just checking in with him. And Mom just kept on crocheting. She didn't say a word. I wanted to bust up, but I was afraid she'd whack me one because I was sitting next to her. So I got up to think I was going to get some water, went outside, and started laughing. So Mary Jo wants to read something. I'll hold it for you if you want. Okay.
Attention, your attention please. To Joann, who was the daughter, sister, cousin, wife, daughter-in-law, mother, sister-in-law, auntie, mother-in-law, grandmother, friend, and neighbor, who for 90 years laughed, cried, praised, scolded, sang, danced, and rocked in a rocking chair. She has many a disappointment and heartache, illness and death have crossed her path too. But the memories, always a smile, along with a whispered prayer for all the happy times of rejoicing with family and friends far and near. She has raised 4 children and several neighborhood generations. We all have our little quirks, to be sure, but flower hermosa and Redondo Beach have known some of the finest children and young adults because of Joann. Don't you just know? Her communities have benefited from her many talents as Sunday school teacher, choir member, and at times a leader, dead mother, brownie, and Girl Scout leader, class mother, church and PTA, everything. A mayor's campaign aide, voter registration, and election polling place person. She served the local Masonic youth as a chief mother in charge of anything that needed a talented mother in charge. She is a chauffeur, gardener, carpenter, janitor, mechanic, plumber, house painter, chimney sweep, cook, dishwasher, laundress, seamstress, florist, mover, and hairdresser, storyteller, housekeeper, zookeeper, nurse, and counselor, and philosopher, and always a diplomat, but never paid a cent. She has known much self-sacrifice and has been rewarded far less than equitable. But when all is said and done and said again, the world would spend just a hint off kilter without the life of one Irish Southern schoolgirl, Joann Bryan, August Roebuck. P.S. Someone asked to be remembered. Dodie.
Excuse me? It's my turn. I have a letter that came from our cousin. I gotta find it here. I think it's. No, that's Jenny's. My Aunt Elizabeth was one of three girls. The first one was Marilyn. It's kind of spelled weird, Southern name, you know. And then Jan, and then Karen. And their last names were Meaves. And we called my Aunt Elizabeth Aunt Libby. And we spent a summer up there at Lake Virginia. And we learned that's where I learned how to play King's Corner and concentration and all this. My mom was a card shark, Jerry will tell you. A lot of people will tell you that she was a card shark. But anyway, Janice Meaves is my cousin, and she wrote this. Hello, my name is Janice Meaves Kocher. My mother, and Joann's father were brother and sister. My earliest memories of Joann was when she was living with my parents in West Virginia, and she was our babysitter while our parents worked. They both worked in Moundsville State Prison. My father was the first licensed fingerprint expert in the state, and my mother worked for the warden and his secretary. Joann lived with them in Moundsville until her father was able to find work in California. Our families kept in close contact throughout the years, phone calls on Sunday evenings. Sometimes Joann would forget about the 3-hour time difference, and we would get calls at 1 and 2 in the morning. And of course, we all got out of bed to say hello and hear Joann's musical voice. No matter how old we were, Joann could always make us smile and laugh. When my sisters and I had retired in our 60s, we called Joann to tell her we were planning a neighborhood reunion in West Virginia with some of our friends and high school friends, plus all the kids from the old groups who lived in our area in Quincy Hill. They called the Quincy Hill Gang. I can only imagine the flurry of questions and concerns that her children had. Let's see. Thank you, Mary Jo, Ginny, and Penny, for making that happen for us, joining in future reunions. So glad we were able to get together one more time as a family. I know it meant the world to your mother as it did to me. Joann was full of life and adventure and was always up to a challenge. Whenever you hear the greeting, hello, sweetheart, think of Joann and smile. Ginny and I both went. I went one year and Ginny went one. I think you went the first year, I went the second year. And it was so much fun to be with my mom and to to go to her church where she joined. And that actually we have a copy of that. My grandmother kept a lot of stuff. And when we moved out of the house, we found a trunk, and in that trunk was a box of stuff. And so we have a baby book with hair in it. It's just a sweet little book, and just the things that my grandmother wrote down, and pictures. We have pictures of people we don't know who they are, that are very, very old, and you're like, yeah, who is this, But anyway, lots of pictures and lots of memories, and her high school diploma. I have report cards from school as well. So it's just really neat to go through those things. One thing she did have that Tom and I found was a full U.S. war bond book. And it was full. She licked them all in there, never turned it in or anything, but it's very cool. Anyway, how do you say something, about your mom? She was so great. I used to say to her when I was in my 20s, if I knew everything you know or could do everything you can do, I will be doing half of it. I'd be doing great. If we needed to figure out, if we needed a corsage for anything, Mom would go in the backyard, pick some roses, and we had a corsage. If we needed to make a pattern if we needed a pattern, like we were making dresses or doll clothes or stuff like that, she would just go bring me a brown paper sack, and she would make the pattern for us, and she'd say, okay, this is what you're going to do, and it was just so creative, really. In her young life, after she graduated from high school, they moved to California in 1944. And when her dad got work here in California, they moved from West Virginia, and she went to Dorsey High. And she had worked in I think a drugstore there, and she had worked at a florist. So this is where she picked up these skills. And she also, after high school, was in the USO, was with the women's USO. They would go dancing, go to their little get-togethers and dance and stuff. She did that for about 3 years. 3 years. She met Mr. August during that time, and they married. They were in Westchester, weren't they? Because I think that's where they originally settled, was Westchester. And they lived over here in Redondo on Harriman. Was it Harriman, Mort, we lived on? You lived on? Yep. Yep. They lived on Harriman for years. And then Mort was born, and he had some difficulties with breathing and that type of thing. So they moved out to Bellflower. And they have lots of funny stories about where they lived, because there was a lot of dairy farm there, and they'd get over on the other side of the fence and they'd get chased by the cows and stuff. Yeah. Bulls. Okay. They had ducks, and the ducks would chase Mary Jo, and she hated the ducks. And along came Ginny, and Mary Jo came there too. They were 2 years apart. They had their own playroom. Don't clean the room, right? Yeah. Then Mom always explained it as that Mr. August and her were still friends, but they just kind of grew apart. And that was right when Ginny was born. And she moved back down here to Hermosa Beach and came back to St. Paul's. When they lived on Huntington, Mr. August would play the organ, piano, And that was when our sanctuary was in Stevens Hall. This building did not exist. It was an old bottle cap factory. So a lot of time was spent here.
And they would have
Oh.
box lunches.
They had boxed lunches. But downstairs, this basement area was still here. There's this tiny little kitchen, and they would do wedding receptions down there in this tiny little kitchen with like 100 people there at these wedding receptions and different dinners and boxed lunches and all kinds of things. We have lots of pictures of these things. I mean, I'm lucky if I see one okay, I know what this is now, We did a lot of social gatherings with our church members, but my parents also, we did camping and that type of stuff together too. And they celebrated parties. Everything kind of revolved around this church. So when my mom was single and living down in Hermosa Beach, she was coming back here, and there was a person in the church who had a boarding house of some type where Daddy was living because he had split from his first wife, and she didn't want to go out with him because he had this long hair and he had like a zoot suit on or something. And he asked her to marry her, and she said, "No, I'm not going to marry you." And I always say she wore her down. And what Mom would also say, he married me, he wore me down, he married me for my kids. He married me for my kids. The kids need a father, that type of thing. Yeah, Ginny was about 2, and there's lots of fun stories that he would tell about her. I'm going to tell you something. Going through slides and pictures for getting ready for this, there is so much blackmail stuff from my sisters and my brothers, and it just cracks me up. My brother was my protector, I think, more than anything, because these two used to pick on me all the time. She's the beautiful one. She's the cute one. And what am I? The baby brat. So anyway, we did a lot of camping with with our family. They did it when I was 4, and they'll always say, "Don't you remember doing that, Penny?" I'm like, I was 4. I don't remember going to Zion and going to Yellowstone and all these places. I don't remember that stuff, But anyway, I guess I was there because I'm in the pictures.
You'd say, "Mary Jo, tell me a story."
I would tell Mary Jo to tell me a story, and Mary Jo would, and that's the whole trip. I would ask her, how do they make tomatoes? Or, I would ask these stupid things. And after a while, Mary Jo got tired of answering them, and then they would start making up stories. But anyway, I will tell you a funny story that when we went camping once, this is what they tell me. They got up like at 3 or 4 in the morning. They had the trailer packed, the station wagon was packed. They got 2 blocks away, and my mom says, "Where's the baby?" And they had to come back and get me. That's pretty crazy. If you have that much stuff on your mind, yeah, they forgot me. It's the first Home Alone, but I was only like 2 or 3, so I wasn't going to get into anything. Anyway, I remember the stories that they tell about camping with the Buzzards. And I believe one time we came home, and Michael Casey was out in the front, and he says, you just missed the Buzzards. Yeah, the Buzzard family, and not the Buzzards, but we spent a lot of time with them. Michael Casey's here, and he was our next door neighbor for years. Yeah. I think my mom touched a lot of lives. I think everybody in this room has been touched by her in some way, her kindness, for remembering birthdays of your kids, being there when you needed maybe a package delivered next door, and, she would be home or Daddy would be home and they would pick it up. She knew so much and had such a good soul. And when I was going through troubles in my own life, she would tell me, this is what you need at the time. That's why God is giving you this experience. Because this is what you needed at the time. There's something you have to learn in that. And she's very, very faithful. Every day she read her devotion. She read the Bible. She wasn't really a pious. She didn't show it a lot. But she believed that there was something better. And I think both my parents were of service to make better lives for everybody else, too. You know? And even though at the end, probably when she moved in with us, she really enjoyed being there with the animals and the cats, and there's so much activity going on. Even though it wasn't due to COVID, we were home. She enjoyed that. And the reason why we moved into a big house was so that family could come and that we could experience it. Because at Christmas 2019, she told me that she felt like she was waiting to die where she was living. And I talked to my brothers and sisters, and they said, we have to do something. I don't want her to be alone. I don't want her to be with people who don't love her. Well, they probably do, but because once she winks at you and once she smiles at you and once she talks to you, you kind of get drawn in. But I didn't want that to happen. And so sat through COVID. We looked at a few houses in the beginning, didn't find anything. And then we waited. And then I said, what are we waiting for? We couldn't go in to see her. It was just talking to her through a window. Couldn't talk to her on the phone anymore. I don't know if any of you have been on the phone with her. She said what she had to say and she hung up on you. And you're like, we would call back, no, Mom, we weren't done talking to you, And so it was really hard. And so when Tom and I went to see her, we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And she said, I guess it's okay. If you think it's okay, you think you can live with it? Yes, it's okay. And it was wonderful to have her with us, even though after a while we were called Yoo-hoo. And yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo, which we miss. Every once in a while you can still, like, oh, was that her, But it was really, I think it's besides taking care of and raising my kids, taking care of my mother was the hardest thing I've ever done, but the most rewarding thing that I have ever done, or we have ever done. And I would tell her, it's okay. It's okay. We all came to see her. Everybody came to see her. And it was okay. Even though she didn't know who you were, she would still be smiling and winking at you. I know I have a funny story to tell. So Trey, my nephew, and his wife, Brittany, and my niece, Andrea, came to visit. It was really rainy. It was during that rainstorm in March. It was horrible. And they come and they go in and see my mom. And my mom was sitting there, and Trey was over here, bed's here, Trey's over here, Brittany's over here, and she's like pointing at them. Like she'd point at Trey and then she'd point at Brittany. And I said, yeah, Mom, they're together, they're married. And she also noticed that she was pregnant. And she points at Trey and said, you were practicing. That's all she said. And I'm like, Mother, and Trey just turned so red. It was just so funny. And I was like, yes, Mother. But he won, But that's the way she was. She kind of set people at ease. And it was just funny that she put those things together. She couldn't remember our names, but she could put those kinds of things together. And I'm really grateful for all that. We had two caregivers that were really wonderful with my mom, and they really did take care of us, Tom and I. And social worker, one of our social workers here, Maria, every time she walked in, what did she say, Maria? Are you married? Are you married? Or the one male nurse that she had, Angel, who she held his hands. And, oh, your hands are warm. And he didn't have a wedding ring on. And so what did she say? Are you married? And he said, yes, but I don't wear my wedding ring. Anyway, it was just funny that that would be like the first thing, and she'd wink at everybody. Anyway, I was glad for what I did and what we did. Tom and I, and taking care of her, and saying goodbye to her, being able to say goodbye to her and be there and comfort her. And I know she's out there. I'm sure her grandma, Bessie, was there, and her grandma and her grandpa. She told me that she would see her grandma. And then she told me, next time, could you make sure they bring mommy and daddy with her? And so I'm sure they were all greeting her, all her old friends, and saying, come on, let's go have a party now. Anyway. What? Play some cards. Anybody else have anything they want to say? Oh. We'll do family first, Orlin. Do you have anything to say more? You don't have to stand up, sweet pea. You want to get out in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you that, and I'll take care of it. It's easy, Doug. I don't have a license for this. Lift your feet up. There.
Good.
That's it?
Yeah.
How about right there?
Hi, folks. You know, I look out there and I see faces that I remember, but I don't. And for all of you to come out to honor my mother is a tremendous thing. One thing that I think we all want to achieve in our lives, and I think she did a very good job, is she wanted to make a difference. And she did truly make a difference. And I could go into all the stories that Penny went into and give you the true. But I won't bore you with that. That's if you see me shaking, I have Parkinson's. For
He
about
was the only one that could. I could say something to you, and you could tell mom and dad, because they couldn't understand what I was saying, but more knew what I was saying.
So, in looking back over things, it's like, well, I don't want to get into the boring stories, although her cheating at cards was really notorious. There was four fields that I hit upon, and it was like community, family, art, and flowers. And that's how I think of my mom. Most of you don't realize it, but the flowers on the altar behind me have been placed there by my mom for over 20 years. And we spent Saturdays together gathering up flowers, going to neighbors and saying, hey, do you give us some flowers and stuff like that. And then we'd come in here and she would arrange them, and always came out wonderful, beautiful flowers. And that's how I think of her, is a flower. Family, wow. I can remember stories about camping. We went with, it was mentioned, the Bozards, who was one of the premier families in the church. We'd go, and they had an exchange student show up the day before they were set to go camping, so they took her. Well, this woman was 16 years old, was a princess in Thailand, had 3-inch fingernails, and they took her out in the dirt. The poor girl cut her fingernails down and all that kind of stuff, but it was just that kind of thing where the people around us were all doing something neat and different. Mom was very involved in the school district and was elected to a statewide position at one time. So you just don't know all the various things she did. Scouts, Girl Scouts, Brownies. She was into all those things. And today, at age 70-something, I won't go into that too much. 70-something, you realize just how much she really put out and helped expand our livelihoods and our families. And that Penny, I'll sit down.
Jimmy has some, Jerry, yeah. So most of you guys probably don't know me, but I am Penny's daughter, Joann's granddaughter. I know, but there's some that people don't know. I feel bad. Okay. All right, so how do you tell a 5-year-old why her mom's crying? It's the hardest thing in the world. My daughter, when I got the call, my daughter was like, what is wrong? She could see the tear in my eyes and everything like that. And I said, I just lost somebody very dear to me. So early memories of Grandma, I wasn't too old to remember a lot, but I did remember family Christmases and Easters and birthdays and, spending time together. I mean, I remember going over to Grandma's during Easter and her hiding the Easter eggs in the backyard. And, of course, the dog, Rosie, found most of them and ate some. So we learned. Halloweens, you always stopped at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Always. Even when I was a teenager, I would stop there. I mean, I remember them dressing up as each other. And there is pictures of me going, what? Like, yeah. I mean, I remember going to Grandma's house after school, walking middle school and elementary school with my brother. She would always help us with our homework. Always had snacks. I mean, later on it was boy troubles. I spent many, many, many summers with Grandma. She taught me how to cross stitch, how to latch hook, and she tried to teach me how to crochet. That didn't go very well. But the one thing she taught me that I'm going to make sure I teach my kids is how to play cards. I mean, we played hand and foot, canasta, rummy, face 10, and our all-time favorite, King's Corners. She used to leave you down the garden path and make you pick up the whole discard pile. And then she goes, okay, I win. I'm like, dang it. And then if you won, I let you win. I'm like, many, many parties in the backyard. Me and my brother's graduation, a wedding reception, church get-togethers, and even a barbecue. And after it was all said and done, Grandma would sit down in her chair with this really exhausted look in her face and just smile, like she enjoyed every moment of it. I decided to move away. She was sad and asked me if I was coming back. And I said, I will, Grandma. Don't worry. I gotcha. I'll be back. Some time had passed, and I called her after I called my mom. And I said, you're going to be a great grandma. And you could hear the joy in her voice. And I made a promise that day. I said to myself, I'm going to make sure my grandmother meets her grandkids. So, a year later, one of my other grandparents passed away. So I had to take a trip to California with my son, Acer. Mom and me, we had this surprise party and surprise thing planned out for her so she can meet it. Nope, the beans got spilled. We're like, yeah, okay, whatever. There goes that plan. And she knew. So we got over there. I think one of the slides is my son, this blue-eyed, blonde kid sitting on her lap going, okay, who are you? I mean, he rearranged her little sculptures and everything like that. And now if it was us kids, oh no. Don't touch, don't move it. So, yeah. Great grandkids get in trouble. That's okay. So some time has gone by and I called Grandma again.
So I told her, I said, you're going to get a complete set. She would have been a great grandmother to a little girl. And that's when I made that promise once again, that I will make sure Grandma got to meet Sapphira, my daughter. I would figure out a way somehow. So a few years ago, I took a road trip with my friend and the kids. I was going to spend some time with my mom, and Grandma remembers this little blonde boy with blue eyes, Acer, but kept getting him mixed up with Tristan, who was Andrea's little boy. She lit up meeting my daughter, Sapphira. I think she could see Penny or me when I was little in her. During that time, we celebrated her third birthday, Sapphira's third birthday. I came back without the kids later on that year to watch over Grandma while Mom and Tom enjoyed a much-needed vacation. She kept asking me, when are they coming back? I told her, Mom, Grandma, soon. They'll be back soon. Don't worry. We played cards. I thought we were playing King's Corners, but it was some kind of game that she came up with. I think she was cheating. When Mom and Tom came back, we celebrated her 94th birthday with a small party. The night before her party, I told her, Grandma, it's time for bed. She looked at me and was, why? I'm like, Grandma, it was late. Grandma, we have a big day tomorrow. We have a birthday for you. She's like, okay. She was like, okay, and like a little kid. I'm like, we get to bed. Things happen in life, but Grandma got to see both of her great-grandkids again and spend time with them. There's a photo at Christmas time of 4 generations. When Sapphira and I was staying with Mom, Sapphira would get up with Mom, or Grandma, to wish great-grandma a good morning. She was so happy, both of them. There were times where Sapphira would simply bring a book or a puzzle, simple puzzle, over to Grandma, and they would do it together. It made me smile. I was like, oh, great. Yay, I fulfilled the promise. And then there was time where Sapphira vanished while playing in Mom's living room. I'm like, where's Sapphira? I was hollering for her. And I hear Grandma from the other room, yoo-hoo! I'm like, so I walk over, and there she is, playing in the bedroom with her. She got to enjoy Sapphira's 4th birthday. Life just happens. I called on Christmas Eve last year to say Merry Christmas, and was told Grandma wasn't doing so hot. So I had to start making my plans. She lived to 95 with memories of kids, grandkids, and now great-grandkids. So my grandma was good. She was good to all of us. Okay. Anybody else? One more.
Oh, dear. I had to write this down so I don't forget anything. I'm here today to thank Joann and family. A little history. I'm Jim Roebuck, Jack's son. I grew up in Hollywood and Torrance. Growing up, I never understood why, this is going to be a downer, why my dad and my mother, Dorothy, God rest her soul, had a negative relationship. Dad tried hard, but it was never enough. We would leave, every Friday after school, when I got out of school, my mother and I would leave for her parents' ranch in Torrance, and then return Sunday afternoon or evening, leaving Dad to fend for himself. Well, he filled the time sometimes on making furniture, and sometimes he would take a walk on Hollywood Boulevard, and he'd tell me, man, those Ferraris are super fast, and they burn rubber. So as a surprise, one weekend, he decided to shampoo the carpet in our upstairs flat. There was no wall-to-wall carpeting then. It was just rugs, right? Well, he did his best, and when we got back from Torrance, we walked up and he was so proud, shampooed the carpet. And my mother looked at it and said, "You shrunk the carpet." It was never anything positive like, "Good job. It's nice and clean and everything." There's always, I don't know what happened to their lives, but it all changed when he met, after the divorce, he met Joann and her kids. His life went from negative to extreme positive because he changed his life forever. And after they were married, he had a great life forever. And the best of all things that he gave me was my little sister Penny. Thank you. Here you go. Family.
Good afternoon. Just a word to say my thoughts about Joann Roebuck. She was a true Christian leader. And this church has been so much better with her and so much better for people who really knew that lady. We had several good telephone conversations while each of us had our own opinions. And biblically speaking, she was very, very good at what she said, in my opinion. And I remember one time that we had a good conversation on the telephone, and she had her opinion and I had mine. And I'll make this quick. I said, we have to remember Luke 1:37. And it was sort of quiet on the phone. And it says, "For with God, nothing shall be impossible." So that's all I had to say. And I love that lady.
Yeah, I met her about 1980 something, and she was a wonderful friend. But I didn't get to know her right away. I was afraid of her. She had a strong personality. I mean, she was like in charge of everything around here, and I was kind of meek, and believe it or not, back then. And so, yeah. But the thing I remember about her was her card playing, and when she finally, Marilyn White had a card group that met every week and played bridge, and I was invited to be an alternate, and finally, eventually, a regular on the group. And I swear that woman, she left nobody behind, and she was out for blood when she played cards. She was something else. But she was she was full of life and kind, and the faith, like she said, the faith was incredible. She believed in everything. And I appreciated Mort talking about her picking the flowers when one time she got up in front of the church and talked about the church and all the things she had done around here. And, I was impressed by the fact that she went out and picked flowers in the neighborhoods to provide flowers for this church for years. And I think that shows what kind of a woman she was, just did everything for everybody.
Hi, my name is Ani. I was Joann's neighbor for, 25, 30 years, right there on Clark Lane. I watched her grandkids grow up. I can't say anything bad about her. She was she was there when I got married. She was there when my son was born. My son is 23 now. She remembered every birthday of his. She remembered Christmas every year for him. There was nothing she wouldn't have done. She was our neighborhood watch. Ani, someone went up your driveway. Do you know this person? Oh, thanks, Joann. I'll go check and see who it is. It was like the best thing. I would leave a spare key at her house because my son would always forget to bring his key. So she was the key holder. And if he forgot to bring it back to her, she would call me and say, Ani, Thomas didn't bring the key back. Do you want to make sure he gets the key back? Because he's going to need it again tomorrow. Because couldn't trust that boy with a key. Anyway, yeah, still can't. I had to put a little code on the back door so he would. Anyway, and about the flowers, she would call me and ask me to come over. She would always have a beautiful bouquet of roses that she grew in her yard. And I would tell her, your roses always smell so beautiful. And she told me that Jack told her there's no reason to plant a flower that doesn't smell. So that was the most beautiful thing. Oh, last thing. My husband used to smoke cigarettes many years ago. And Jack wasn't allowed to smoke anymore because of his health. But we didn't know that. And sometimes when my husband was out in the driveway smoking a cigarette, Jack would come over and say, hey, Tom, can you hook me up with a cigarette? And then one day Joann caught him, and that was it. I mean, it was like, okay, Tom was like, no more cigarettes for you, Jack. But anyway, and we knew Rosie, and we knew all the Easter parties, and when Penny got married, everything, we were there. So I just have to say she was a very, very special person. Thank you.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Oh, Shannon.
So much of what has already been said about Joann, I just can echo. And coming to this church, we're sort of latecomers to St. Paul's as far as Joann would be concerned, because we've only been here the last 10 or 12 years. But I can tell you where she sat over here, and so Lydia was just telling me that after church every Sunday, they would sit there and have a conversation. And that was the thing, the presence of Joann in this church was just love, pure love. And I know that I love the family. You can see her love blossom through each of her children and her grandchildren, and I'm certain her great-grandchildren, because that's the beauty of love. It does just flow. And with Joann, those of you who are St. Paulers, you will understand this thoroughly, but passing the peace at St. Paul's is a major event. And Joann was just fantastic because she would grab your hands. And there were a couple of times, because I've got some health issues where my hands sometimes would be really warm. And she would say, oh dear, your hands are so warm. But for Joann today, I did two things specific as I've been thinking about her and her presence in my life. And I am one of those people that she has touched. I wanted to wear red today because of a couple of reasons. At every Christmas during the holiday season, you could count on your mom to be festive. And she had a red jacket or a red sweater that she would wear. And the other thing that you could count on with Joann was she would talk about her bird, and she loved her bird, and she always had a pin, which oftentimes was a bird and a cardinal. So the red represents the cardinal. And my mom gave my wife a pin, the bluebird of happiness. And we fought over it a little bit today as to who was going to get to wear it. And Pat graciously said, well, it's probably going to get lost on my outfit. And so you wear it. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I just loved your mom. I loved her presence. And I am so grateful that she came into my life and touched our life as a couple. And she did nothing but give us love. And it's a special woman. Love shouldn't be a special thing in our lives, but we need more of it. And Joann she just radiated love and welcomeness, and she did so much. I hear things from Virginia and Penny and Mary Jo, and I learned about the fact that this place used to be a bottle cap factory, and I'm like, really? And all the things that she did in the basement. You guys have shared those stories already with precious spirit, and I'm so grateful. I know she's with her family and loved ones, but she's also with her family here and with her family here at St. Paul's. I feel that love and energy and goodness today. So I miss her, but I know where she is, and I know that she's all about love and playing cards. So, oh, hang on.
As, we just loved your mom. And as I was hearing Shannon, I was thinking about the first time we came and how welcome she made us feel. And then I was remembering Maya Angelou's words, people will not remember you for what you said or even what you did. People will remember you for how you made them feel. And that's what I take as I think of your mom.
Very well said, Maya Angelou. I think I put that up on the screen here some time ago. Truer words were ever spoken, I don't think. We're going to, there's an abundance of food in the back. So we have plenty of opportunities to laugh and tell stories and play cards, even if for that matter. I don't know. But enjoy in a few moments. I'll let you go here, but enjoy this moment of community and family and friends, because that is what Joann would want you to do. And from what I've just been hearing here like that, there's no shortage of stories, I'm guessing. So I enjoy that. Join me in an attitude of prayer, please. Lord, Joann is gone now from this earthly dwelling and has left behind those of us who mourn her absence. Grant that we may hold her memory dear, never bitter for what we have lost, nor in regret for the past, but always in hope of the eternal kingdom, where you will bring us together once again. We ask this through Christ our Lord. This is a prayer for strength. This is a prayer for we who are maybe in mourning, or we who miss Joann. Lord, at the moment, nothing seems to be able to help the loss we feel. My heart, our hearts are broken, and my spirit mourns. All we know is that your grace is sufficient. This day, this hour, moment by moment, we choose to lean on you. For when I am at my weakest, your strength is strongest. We pour out our grief to you and praise you that on one glorious day, when all suffering is extinguished and love has conquered, we shall all walk together again. Amen. And I will finish up my end of this very quickly, is that what many of you spoke about like this is that your mother, Joann, understood what it meant to serve others, to serve family, to serve her church, her community, children. It's my feeble attempt to list them all, that many of them that you just heard today. But we are all placed here for purpose. We are placed here to serve one another, to lift each other up. We have a period of time here in these bodies to do exactly that. And it's limited. Okay. But before we leave, we can only be inspired by Joann, 95 years on this earth, continuing to serve and inspire and lift up all of us. And she has done that for me, and I pray and I believe that she has done that for each and every one of you today. Go in peace. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Got me all worked up.
The national anthem.
As kids, Ginny played the piano and the organ. I played guitar, and many times on a Sunday evening, afternoon, we would go home in Daddy's house having a barbecue. You know, we were always instructed, Penny, make sure you bring your guitar. And Frank remembers this. Remember when Andrew was little, and we would, in the living room, we had to perform. And we would bring the guitar out, you all remember it, and we'd sing, and Ginny would play the organ, and we really enjoyed that time. So I used to not like it, but whenever we were there, this was definitely one of the songs that we would sing. And Tom and I performed it at a talent show on my mom's birthday a few years ago. And this is her song, growing up in Parkersburg, West Virginia. So.
God bless Joann. God bless each and every one of you. Go out and enjoy each other in company and in food. Enjoy it.